All right, let's talk about a classic novel that honestly hits just as hard today as it did over 80 years ago. We're diving deep into John Steinbeck's masterpiece of Mice and Men, and we're going to figure out why this story from the 1930s feels so incredibly relevant right now.
So right at the center of this whole thing is a really tough question. I mean, it's a painful one. It's the engine that drives the entire story of our two main guys, George and Lenny, and their desperate search for a place to just belong.
Okay, so to really get what's going on in this story, you gotta understand the world it was born into. And believe me, this isn't just some historical backdrop. The Great Depression, it's practically a character in its own right, a harsh, unforgiving one. And you know what's so wild is the timing. When Steinbeck put this novel out in 1937, America was right in the middle of this massive economic crisis. This wasn't some look back at history. Nope. This was like a live report from the front lines of American poverty.
So yeah, this was the daily grind for guys like George and Lenny. Just constant moving, zero security, and not a whole lot of hope to go around. And get this, Steinbeck wasn't just making this stuff up. He'd actually worked right alongside these guys. He wrote this book to give voice to the people everyone else was ignoring.
All right, so in the middle of this really bleak world, the story just zooms in on two things that are, well, they're universal. The desperate need for a dream and the crushing weight of being all alone. And this one line, man, it just says it all. This is it. This is George and Lenny's American dream. Boiled down, a little piece of land, a place where they could finally be safe, be free, be their own bosses. It's the one thing, the only thing, that keeps them putting one foot in front of the other. And this is the central struggle of the book, right here. On one side, you've got the dream, that perfect little farm where everything's going to be okay. But on the other side, you've got the reality, a world that feels like it's designed to grind you down, a system that makes that dream feel completely out of reach for people like them.
You know, that ranch is basically a pressure cooker of loneliness. You've got Candy, who's old and just terrified of being thrown away. You've got Crooks, totally isolated because of his race, and Curly's wife, who's so trapped she's just desperate to talk to anyone. So in a world like that, George and Lenny's friendship, it's not just some nice little thing. It's a radical act. It's how they survive.
And George, he lays it out perfectly. He says guys like them are the loneliest guys in the world. That's the default setting. So the fact that he and Lenny have each other, that makes them the exception. And that one simple fact is what makes their story both so powerful and, in the end, so absolutely heartbreaking.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about power. Because this ranch, it's not just a ranch. Steinbeck built it as a perfect little model of the entire society, a microcosm, showing exactly who's on top and who's at the very bottom.
I mean, look at this. It's a crystal clear pecking order. Power starts at the top, with the boss and his son Curly. But pretty much everyone else, they're shoved into the powerless column. The workers, women, people of color, the old, the disabled. In this world, if you have any kind of vulnerability, it's not just a weakness, it's something that will be used against you.
And just think about this for a second. We never even learn her name. She's just Curly's wife, like she's his property. And Steinbeck did that on purpose. It's a powerful way to show how women at the time were often stripped of their own identity, seen as objects, with their own dreams just completely dismissed.
It's the same thing with Crooks, right? He's forced to live out in the barn, totally separate from everyone else. It's a direct symbol of the segregation and racism of the era. Here's this smart, capable guy who's treated like an outcast just because of the color of his skin. And you know, these characters and other things in the story, they're not just there for plot. Steinbeck uses them as powerful symbols to really drive these themes home.
Like take the mice, the very title of the book, those tiny creatures that Lenny just can't help but crush. They're a perfect, heartbreaking symbol for how fragile the dreams of the powerless really are and how easily they can be destroyed. And then there's the farm itself. That dream farm becomes this massive symbol of everything these guys don't have. Hope, freedom, a little bit of control over their own lives. It's like this perfect paradise that's always just beyond their grasp. And of course, there's Candy's old dog. The way he's put down just because he's seen as old and useless, it's absolutely chilling. It's a direct foreshadowing of what happens to Lenny. And it leaves us with this really difficult question, doesn't it? Where exactly is the line between mercy and cruelty? Okay, so this brings us to the real heart of it, right? Why does a book written way back in 1937 still resonate so much today? Why does it still feel so raw? Let's build that bridge from their world directly to ours.
So first, let's just remember what Steinbeck's world looked like. We're talking widespread economic pain, huge gaps between the rich and poor, racism, sexism, and this deep, biting loneliness. These were the big, defining problems of his time.
Okay, now, let's look at our world. Maybe the signs look a little different, but the economic anxiety, it's still there. The job search might be online now, but that feeling of struggling to find work is the same. The loneliness isn't necessarily in a barn anymore. Maybe it's behind a screen. The details change, but the core struggles, they're identical. The echoes are they're impossible to ignore.
So, if these problems are still with us, then what's the novel's big message for us right now? Well, it really all comes down to one simple but incredibly powerful idea.
See, the genius of what Steinbeck did is that he didn't write a textbook about the economy. He wrote a story about people. He made his readers look past labels like migrant worker and see the real, breathing, dreaming human beings who were struggling. He built a bridge of empathy.
And in the end, these are the big truths the story leaves us with. Number 1, our dreams are what keep us going. Number 2, friendship, that human connection, is what gives life meaning. Number 3, and this is a tough one, society often fails the people who need its help the most. And finally, sometimes reality can just be too much, and it can crush even our best-laid plans.
So what's the ultimate takeaway? It's actually pretty simple, but it's profound. Steinbeck's warning from way back in 1937 is the exact same warning for us today. Don't ever forget the human story that's hiding behind every statistic, every headline, every economic report.
And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought. The novel challenged its readers to see the humanity in the forgotten people of the Great Depression. The question for us is, whose story, whose humanity are we failing to see right now?